I'm Kaddy Lee-Preston. Welcome to Living Surrey. We're here at the Surrey County Show, which this year celebrates its Diamond Jubilee. Now obviously the weather isn't quite as suntastic as we were all hoping for, but everyone here is certainly going to have a fantastic day. One of the highlights here today will be a dramatic display by the King's Troop, and earlier Amanda Campbell went to their base in Woolwich to watch their preparations.
The King's Troop moved from St John's Wood to Woolwich in 2012, and while humans might not be thrilled at the thought of moving from NW8 to SE18, for the more than 100 horses of the troop, Woolwich means state-of-the-art facilities. Captain Nick Watson introduces some of its residents.
These are the officers' horses, what we call chargers. They're bigger than the horses we use in team to pull the guns, and you'll notice they've all got their manes. We take the manes off the ones that pull the guns, as it just avoids rubbing, and it's easier for them to ride one-handed without the manes getting in the way. So we've got quite a few chargers, and you can see we've got the commanding officer's one here. This is Lucy, or full name Lucy Glitters. All the names are taken from Surtees novels. And they're all sort of recycled as they go, but there's a list of about 90 or so names, so it takes a while to get through them all. And we've got some very good horses. We've got William behind you there, who's one of the ones we would use for large parades, funerals, things like that, as being a sort of completely black horse. He's a sort of a bit of a schoolmaster here. He's been doing it for many years, and he's probably the most photogenic horse we have, and he tends to make the newspapers quite often.
So who have we got here?
So this is Falstaff, or his full name is Mr. Screw'em-Tight. He's the one I'll be riding this weekend, and yeah, he's one of the bigger ones we've got here. He's well over 18 hands, and with the biggest, most ridiculous ears in the army, I think. He's a bit of a character. He likes to have a little buck every now and then on parade, just because he's enjoying himself. But again, he's been here for many years and knows his job very well. So he should see me safely through, hopefully.
Every location that the King's Troop performs at varies slightly, so the soldiers perform a run-through on foot before matters get complicated by hooves and guns. The space is coned out to exact dimensions. Taking part in the Guildford show will be gunner Grace Costello.
He's just passed out, so he is second time in the drive. The more practice and things they can have, the better it will be for them. So, and they'll work better because
He'll be in Guildford?
sorry?
He'll be at Guildford?
Yes, he should be, shouldn't he?
Yeah, he'll be at Guildford this year.
In the 21st century, the King's Troop provides an awesome spectacle for ceremonials and displays. But a scant 100 years ago, it was for real, with the very guns used in today's displays seeing actions on the battlefields of Europe. Galloping a team of 6 horses flat out towards another team of 6 galloping horses while towing a 1.5-ton gun means a huge emphasis on safety and thorough checks on the parade ground before the troop even thinks about leaving for practice. Briefings deliver necessary adjustments to routine, and updated weather and surface conditions mean extra grip is needed in the form of large studs in the horse's shoes. It's up to the experienced bombardier on the lead horse of each team to control speed. The guns are over a century old and need constant TLC. One soldier voluntarily turned in at 5 a.m. on practice morning to fix a problem he'd spotted to ensure the firing mechanism ran smoothly. every move is monitored by Commanding Officer Major Mark Edward, watching from on high. Back at barracks, it's always the horses that are given priority, and after they've been washed, it's time for the harness to be cleaned, and Grace explains her job.
I'm doing the loose leather, so all the bits that come off the harness, I'm going to wash them and clean them, and then they'll be polished back up, ready for next time the harness goes out. I'm in detachment at the back, so I'm either number 2 or number 3 or horse holder. Number 2 opens the breech for the round to go in when we fire the gun. Number 3 fires the trigger, and then horse holder takes the horses off 2 and 3 when they dismount detachment, and then when we get off to do the gun and fire the gun, they take the horses away and then bring them back for us to remount. Obviously with my role, it's just a case of staying in detachment in a group. We have to stay together, make sure it's tidy, make sure the sword's straight, your sword's not going all over the place, and try and keep the horses where they need to be and as settled and go as smoothly as possible, really. I've been with the King's Troop about 7.5 months now, but I'd ridden before I came to the King's Troop, so I've ridden for about 23 years, so I'm 26, and had show horses, and I also ride judge and represent the Irish draft, the breed, so I've had other things that the King's Troop are letting me do, so I am allowed still to judge and compete if I can. I always wanted to join the army, but when I left school, I stayed on to sixth form to do A-levels, and then I got involved in racing, so I worked in horse racing for about 5 years, with jump horses and flat horses, and it all sort of carried on from then, and then I was like, it's now or never really to join the army, so I then joined the army a couple of years ago. Did my basic training in phase 2 and then came here. When I came here, obviously it helped having a bit of experience, but you get taught the military way of riding and vaulting on, and so that was all new and, you know, really interesting. And then we did our pass out for recruits ride that you have to do before you can ride in the shows or detachment, and I got best recruit for that, so that was good. It's really good. I've done a couple of salutes so far, and I've done one show, which was Windsor, the latest. So.
Was that the musical ride?
Yes, it was, yeah.
And that was last week?
Yes.
How did you find that? Was it nerve-wracking?
Yeah, it was nerve-wracking. Obviously, I worry about it. It's the vaulting on, especially if you're having to rush to get on. But it was really good, really exciting. And it was nice that you could see the Queen, and my parents came to watch, so it was really good.
And what about nerves before an event? Do you get nervous at all?
Yes, I do. But I try and use it in a positive way. But yeah, everyone gets a bit nervous, but it tends to always pull together in the end pretty well. The most important thing really is the horses, and to keep the horses as calm and as relaxed as possible, because we need them. So, and to make sure the kit's all prepared and everything's ready, because we need all of it really.
Wow, I cannot wait to see them in action today. But hold your horses, it's not happening just yet. Before we get to see them, we've been checking out what else you can see at the show today. And surely at every county show, there's always a good sense of humour lurking beneath. And here, one of the must-see events today has got to be the competition for the pig with the grumpiest face. So Oliver, you're obviously into your piggies, you've got your piggy tie and a huge pig behind us. Tell us a little bit about this one.
Her name's Brooke. She's a pedigree middle white pig. You can see from her appearance that her face is quite appealing and interesting. She stands out from the crowd. She's only a 2-year-old sow, so she's still got another year of growth to do. So by the time another year happens, she should be a nice few inches taller and a bit wider.
She's getting bigger?
Yeah, bigger. She's 3 weeks pregnant at the moment. Yeah.
And what kind of character has she got?
She's as good as gold. She's wanders around the farm all day and she likes her wallows, I can say that. Having to bath her last night and this morning.
See, to me all pigs sort of look the same. Would you agree with that?
Oh no. Out of the white breeds, she's the most appealing and to look at. She's got the nice short snout. She won her sow class and she then got Reserve Supreme Champion Pig.
And what about pig with the grumpiest face? Is she in for that?
Ooh, we could put her in. Don't know if she would win, but she can win prettiest pig.
With such a glowing reference, Kaddy felt she just had to have a go herself.
She's ignoring me.
It's tradition that pig handlers use only a stick and a board, despite pigs definitely having a mind of their own.
Well, there you have it. First prize for the pig the judge would most like to take home. Hang on, were they meaning me?
On a day made for keeping warm, for waterproofs and wellies, one person is at the very centre of everything.
I'm here with Sonia Ashworth, the Surrey County Show organiser. It's the 60th year of the show. How has it been such a success?
It's not all down to me. Please don't ever think it's all down to me. We have a huge number of volunteers and judges. We have a council of 42 who look after the finances of our charitable society, and they all pull together and work really hard for this one day a year. It all comes together like a giant jigsaw, but we really couldn't do it without the help of all the wonderful people, a lot of them in the farming community, who pull together to put this show on for the public of Surrey.
And what do you love so much about the show?
I think the best moments for me are the build, which takes quite a long time. It takes about 3 weeks to build 2.5 miles of tent. We see the showground like a giant jigsaw, it all comes together. And then the livestock start moving in overnight. And walking into that livestock tent, there's a very large cattle tent. And when it's all full of people and the showing gets underway and there's an amazing, exciting atmosphere in there, it's second to none. I love it. And then, of course, watching members of the public coming in with their families. There's such a lot for them to do and see here.
Even with the horrible weather we've got today, you can feel the buzz in the air. People are still having a great time. How will the weather affect the overall day?
Well, it's unfortunate. There are an awful lot of people that won't come because they don't want to get wet and cold. But I would say that our farming community and the real countryside people come out no matter what the weather's like. And actually the success of the day for us is that we're holding thousands of animal classes and they're all carrying on. So all our livestock showing classes, our horse showing classes, they're carrying, thousands and thousands of exhibitors here, and that's all taking place come rain or shine, and we're good in England, aren't we? We just carry on with it.
Surrey County Show has the farming community at its very heart, as Kaddy discovered when she popped into the dairy tent.
Neil, these are definitely some of the prettiest cows we have at the show.
Yes.
What's going on at the moment then?
Well, as judging's finished, they're being milked. They can't really travel. We can't leave them too long before they're milked out because the udders get full and they want them full for judging. So now it's all finished, they're getting rid of the milk.
And how much milk will each cow tend to produce?
Depends on the breed. The big commercial ones, the black and white Holsteins over here and the Ayrshires, you might get 50, 60 litres, maybe even more than that from a big cow.
Per day?
Per day, yeah, and 2 milkings. Most of them are producing somewhere between 15 and 20 litres at a time per milking.
And where does that milk end up?
Well, it goes into a bulk tank. You can see them coming into the jars, into the collecting jar at the end and into the bulk tank. That goes away at the end of the day from a farm. and that will go to big dairy producer processor, so into your milk cartons or for cheese, yoghurt, that sort of thing.
So is it likely that someone could be having this milk in their breakfast cereal tomorrow morning?
Unfortunately, this milk, no, because we're not under controlled conditions. This milk is not for human consumption. This particular milk, because obviously we've got lots of different producers coming in from different areas, we can't control the conditions. So in an actual dairy farm where they've got better control, that's when it will go straight to. It'll be 2 days later. It'll end up on your table.
And what's the aim of having the cows here at the show today?
Show off British farming, give something back to our farmers, and let the public see where their food comes from.
And what are all the different breeds here?
Well, we've got, say, Holsteins, the big black and whites, the red and whites, the Ayrshires. We've got some Jerseys down the end. There are some Guernseys here as well. A good spread of different breeds.
You can't come to a county show and not be drawn in by the delicious and delectable smells wafting from the food tent. And today there are quite a few secret Surrey specialities. Lee, can I try something you've got here?
Please do, help yourself.
Beetroot, ginger and chilli chutney. Sounds amazing. Oh, that's good. More.
No worries, thank you.
This South Downs venison burger bar is very popular. Delicious.
Of course, 2014 marks 100 years since the start of World War I, an anniversary marked at the show. It's also the theme of a forthcoming exhibition at the Surrey Rural Life Centre.
It's about the animals in the First World War. It'll be dogs, horses, pigeons and even glowworms.
Now, we're standing actually by an exhibit you have already. Can you tell us a bit more about this horse ambulance?
Yes, this horse ambulance was used in the First World War. It came from a local farm and the horses came from Bewley. One is Morris and one is Austin. The horse actually has got a muzzle on him because he bites, and that's an army muzzle. The farmers and anybody who had a horse had to take them to either a market place in say, their area, or the village green, and they had to be lined up.
That's correct, and then they were sent to the various remount centres. There were 4 major ones in this country. Arborfield, which is just near here, was one of the major ones. Melton Mowbray, of course, which is still going and is now the dog centre for the British Armed Forces. They then went through 2 to 3 months training to either be pulling the carriages, gun teams, ambulances, GS wagons, which were carrying all the goods for the British Armed Forces. And then they were led down to Southampton, where they were shipped over to Belgium and France. I mean, it goes on from horses, mules, which became more and more popular because they were very strong and could pull all the various horse-drawn vehicles. But then when you go to the Middle East, where they were fighting the Turks, the British Armed Forces had several thousand camels which were pulled in to form the Imperial Camel Corps. Donkeys were then pulled in from Egypt because they ran out of camels after a certain time, and they had to take tons of all the fodder, the food for the soldiers and all their belongings. Going on from that, of course, you've lost all the horses in this country, the workhorses. So zoos and circuses were drawn in to help out with supplying elephants to pull ploughs and wagons, as well as Bactrian camels.
Dogs were used. The Germans were using dogs a very long time before we started using dogs. We started at the beginning of the war with one Airedale dog called Jack, and that was the only army dog. We were late on. I think it was about late 1916, 17, early 17, when Colonel Richardson was allowed to start a school for dogs. What they did was to ask the general public if they would give their dogs to the war effort. So a great many people did that. Also, the rescue centres in the country were absolutely inundated with dogs because people obviously couldn't afford to keep them. So they requisitioned those. And the dogs were used as messenger dogs. They were used as guard dogs in the trenches, but they couldn't bark. They weren't allowed to bark. So they trained them not to bark.
A veterinary officer, he was presented before he came over with a bear cub. A hunter had been out and shot a bear and didn't realise it had a bear cub. And so he took the cub and presented it to the veterinary officer. He took it over to the Western Front because he was with the Canadian cavalry. And on a chain, it was led round and went everywhere with him until one day it misbehaved. Having seen its favourite food in the officer's mess, it leapt through the French windows, which were actually closed, shattered those, straight onto the table, grabbed its food and everything else in sight, and they ended up being sent to London Zoo. Well, Winnie became the forerunner for A. Milne's famous Winnie the Pooh.
Oh, yes.
I've been working on as many models as I can of horse-drawn vehicles, from the horse ambulances I got here, through the Royal Engineers with their bridging pontoons, GS wagons, which was the general service wagon used by the British Armed Forces to take supplies, horse ambulance. I work on roughly 100 figures at a time, but something like that would be done within a week. All my models will be on display here from the 2nd of August at the Royal Life Centre.
The Animals in War exhibition starts on August the 2nd at the Surrey Rural Life Centre in Farnham.
Animals made a great contribution to World War I, but local farms in Surrey played a massive role as well. And Angus, stubbled here, your family have been farming here for generations. Just how many years has your family been here?
Well, I wish I could tell you exactly, but several hundred years. Several hundred years.
And how many times have you been coming to the show?
Well, since it started, not personally, and I think my family are involved with actually sort of setting this show up anyway.
And what does the show mean to you?
Well, it's our local show. It's where we can show all our stock off to all the local people, so who see us at the farmers markets, and they can actually see that we've actually got some pretty good cattle as well. And it's also the first show for us in the year, so we can gauge how good we are or how bad we are against other cattle.
And is it any coincidence that your name's Angus and you have Aberdeen Angus here?
No coincidence at all.
You've got quite an interesting story from the war about someone called Harry. Tell us about that.
Harry Davis, who worked for my family for over 80 years. When he was a teenager, his team of horses went off to war, and he decided to follow them.
And how did that work out?
Well, he didn't stay with a team of horses, but he worked with horses with the Royal Artillery all through the war. But he actually met his team out in the retreat of Mons, and he actually wrote it down. So we actually got the record there about his life in the First World War.
Quite a history then, with farming, war.
Yeah, and they lost a lot of horses in the war, went off. And I think even my great-grandfather's pony went off as well. It was coming in. Everything went to war. So yeah, so we were the closest to. We were close to France. So a lot. All the trees went and everything. I think we have been doing Aberdeen Angus for about 90 years now. We're probably one of the oldest herds in the country, and we still do an awful lot of cattle, which we sell to local farms for breeding. So lots of people come to us for.
How many do you have?
hundreds.
Okay.
But you wouldn't expect that in the middle of Surrey, you see, that kind of, and in fact in Surrey we have some of the best farmers and some of the best stock in the country. And that's what you're seeing out there, probably some of the finest animals in the country. You wouldn't think that in Surrey, but these animals will go on to win the Highland Show and the Royal Welsh Show. It all starts here.
Well, congratulations on your winner today.
Find out more about Harry and the original war horses, as well as fascinating archive material on our website www.livingsurrey.co.uk.
So here we are with the main event as the King's Troop showcases what is simply the best horsemanship in the world. Enjoy.
Having seen the troop hone the display on foot and then in the local park, here they are in their glamorous uniforms making things look easy despite the relentless rain and slippery conditions. Don't forget to watch out for Gunner Grace Costello and Captain Nick Watson as they speed past. The fastest horses are the two at the front, with stockier horses at the back acting as the brakes. You don't get to be a lead rider until at least 10 years with the troop. The musical drive was first performed in 1897, and many manoeuvres remain virtually unchanged, like the scissors, where the whole team crosses at a breathtaking gallop. Muddy, sweaty and very, very wet, the troop enthralled the crowd, despite the mud creating extra difficulties, especially for cornering the guns. And we caught up with Grace to get her reaction.
Well, both drives went really well. Everything was okay with the guns and everything, and the horses all came back ready to do the second drive. The first drive, obviously we had a lot more Republic gear, and the weather, although it's been terrible, it's been a really good day. So I think we're happy all that way.
Well, despite the weather, I think everyone had a great day. All the horses have got back safely. All the guns went off at the right time. The right number of bangs happened, which is always a good thing. And I think everyone's thoroughly enjoyed themselves, despite the slightly irritating weather.
Wow, that was amazing, wasn't it? And it's been an amazing day here today, despite the weather. And I think it just shows you what a resilient British spirit we all have. Doesn't matter about the weather, everyone's had a great time today. So we'll be back at 7 p.m. next week on Sky 192, bringing you more of the best of Surrey. And if you do want to catch the highlights from today, please go to livingsurrey.co.uk. See you next week.